Think about how a magic trick works. The magician makes a sudden, flashy movement with their left hand, and your eyes lock right onto it. Because our brains are wired to focus on the loudest thing in the room, we completely miss what the quiet right hand is doing. Right now, on the global stage, we are all watching a very loud left hand. That distraction is the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. The friction between Iran and Israel is intense, and it is consuming our news feeds and our daily anxieties. For good reason. The stakes are incredibly high, and the hostility is very real. Because of those high stakes, the United States and the international community are pouring massive amounts of attention, energy, and military resources into keeping that specific region from boiling over. But when the world's primary security guard has all its cameras pointed at one single door, it leaves a massive, unmonitored blind spot right on the opposite side of the globe.
So let's look away from the Middle East for a moment and check on that blind spot in East Asia. Specifically, we need to look at the waters surrounding the island of Taiwan. This satellite image shows the narrow strait separating mainland China from Taiwan. It is a highly congested space. While the world looks away, China methodically moves heavy military assets straight into this tight corridor. We are seeing dozens of Chinese military jets and naval ships operating around the island daily. They are pushing closer and closer to Taiwan's shores. China is executing a methodical operation, using this global blind spot to prepare the ground for an eventual takeover. To understand why this is happening, we have to look at the core dispute. Officially, the Chinese government claims that Taiwan is simply a rebellious province that belongs to the mainland. But on the ground, Taiwan operates as its own completely separate system. They have their own elections, their own booming economy, and their own military forces, yet they are trapped in a geopolitical gray area. Taiwan cannot officially declare itself an independent country because doing so would cross China's ultimate red line and immediately trigger a war. Because of this tension, Taiwan relies on something called an Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ. Think of it like the property line in your front yard. If someone walks down the public sidewalk, you keep an eye on them. But if they step over the line onto your grass, you demand to know who they are, and you get ready to defend your home. China is deliberately stepping on the grass. On consecutive days recently, massive waves of Chinese military jets have intentionally crossed the median line directly into Taiwan's property. Imagine the stress this causes. Every single time those radar blips cross the line, Taiwanese pilots are sprinting to their planes. They have to treat it as a real invasion, entirely unsure if today is the day the shooting actually starts. That exhaustion is exactly the point. China isn't trying to start a shootout today. They are playing a grueling psychological game, hoping Taiwan will eventually break under the stress and fire the first shot. But the fighter jets are only the loud half of the strategy. The other half is happening quietly inside Taiwan's own borders. The Chinese government has been actively increasing diplomatic meetings with Taiwan's main political opposition party, the Kuomintang. This creates a vice grip on Taiwan's current leadership. They are being squeezed by constant military threats on the outside while facing political fracturing and pressure from the inside. It is a textbook strategy to exhaust an opponent's military and break their political unity at the exact same time, achieving control without ever officially declaring war. You might be wondering, why doesn't Taiwan's strongest ally, the United States, simply step in and put a stop to this creeping takeover? Taiwan's entire defense strategy relies on the promise of American support and a steady pipeline of advanced military hardware to deter a direct invasion. But if we look at this resource dashboard, we can see exactly why that pipeline is strained. American ammunition stockpiles, military resources, and strategic focus are running dangerously low as they pour almost entirely into managing the conflicts in the Middle East and Ukraine. When military hardware is spread this thin across two active regions, the U.S. faces a massive challenge trying to move and sustain heavy forces on the other side of the planet to deter a third major conflict. And China knows this. The massive distraction in the Middle East has handed them an incredibly rare, perfectly timed window of opportunity. We are conditioned by movies to think that major global conflicts begin with a sudden explosion or an angry speech broadcast live on television. But history shows that large-scale power grabs usually happen quite slowly, inch by inch, while the rest of the world is busy arguing elsewhere. Those daily Chinese military flights into their space aren't slowing down, they are accelerating. They are testing the exact breaking point of Taiwan's sovereignty, day after day. And the real danger is this. By the time the international community finally puts out the fires in the Middle East and turns its eyes back toward East Asia, it will likely be far too late to stop Taiwan from being completely consumed.